Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Overnight, a federal grand jury voting to indict Donald Trump in the special counsel's investigation into his handling of classified documents. Prosecutors telling the former president to be in court on Tuesday in Miami to face arraignment. Sources telling ABC News Trump is facing multiple charges, ranging from illegal retention of government documents regarding national security, to conspiracy, to obstruction of the government's efforts to retrieve those documents. The indictment marking the first time an American president has faced federal charges. And the Justice Department appears to have compelling new evidence, including an audio recording of Donald Trump allegedly on tape admitting to keeping classified material. Quote, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. This was done by the military and given to me. And also saying, as president, I could have declassified, but now I can't. President Trump responding with fury on his social media site last night, saying he never thought it possible such a thing could happen.
What?
Calling it a dark day.
I'm innocent, and we will prove that very, very soundly and hopefully very quickly.
Trump has insisted all along he's done nothing wrong. After leaving the White House, Trump spent months haggling with the National Archives over whether he had returned all government records as required by law. But when the FBI learned Trump still had sensitive documents, despite his team's insistence that they had turned everything over, agents raided his home in Mar-a-Lago.
Ooh, speaking of agents, I believe right now Jack Smith is speaking to the United States and the world. Hang on, let's listen.
Investigation. Nothing more and nothing less. The prosecutors in my office are among the most talented and experienced in the Department of Justice. They have investigated this case hewing to the highest ethical standards, and they will continue to do so as this case proceeds. It's very important for me to note that the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. To that end, my office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused. We very much look forward to presenting our case to a jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida. In conclusion, I would like to thank the dedicated public servants of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, with whom my office is conducting this investigation and who work tirelessly every day upholding the rule of law in our country. I'm deeply proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Thank you very much.
That's it? Oh, come on, Jack.
Why Florida, sir? Why did you decide to bring the case in Florida?
No questions? No.
Anyone that has watched.
Right, everybody's sighing. All of us are going, really, Jack? Come on, Jack. Jack! Tell the story. Tell the story of the, okay, so here's what we have now. We have a speaking indictment. This is what we were, hoping we would get, right? Not just a piece of paper saying that, what Jack Smith just said, that, hey, we just, indicted Donald Trump and also Walter Nauta. Remember we were talking to you about Walter Nauta when we were talking about the pool boy story, and we didn't know if that was part of it. It's not in this indictment, the pool part. There is something about the pool house. I mean, I just read it. And I have to tell you, you will love this. You will love this indictment. You know how they always say you need to look for a speaking indictment, meaning an indictment that does more than, just say we indicted, and here are, the statutes that we are indicting, under. Like in this one, there's lots of statutes that they indicted under. There's witness tampering. There's there's lying to the FBI. There's obstruction of justice. There's illegal retention of documents, a conspiracy to hide the documents, a conspiracy to obstruct justice, There's all kinds of, you know how we were told yesterday, and this is why I say I don't like listening to the TV lawyers. I like to read things myself. So they were telling us yesterday that there were 7 counts in this indictment, and one was going to be conspiracy to commit a crime, meaning more than one person. There's 38 counts in this indictment. 38 counts, not 7. 38 counts in this indictment, and many of them are related to conspiracies. Conspiracies to defraud the government, conspiracies to lie to the FBI, conspiracies to move the boxes. Literally, Walt Nauta and another guy who they're referring to as, like employee number 2. I'm guessing it's the Squid Kid. I don't know who it is. I guess it's the Squid Kid, the calamari dude, Mr. Scangili. I don't know. And his dad, the security dude, they're moving hundreds of boxes. And not only did they move hundreds of boxes from a stage area in the actual resort this is a multimedia presentation, okay? This is not just a speaking indictment. This is an indictment that has text messages and photographs and recordings and testimony and Evan Corcoran's notes. Yeah, Evan Corcoran. His notes and Christina Bob's law breaking. I mean, it is such an amazing. For those of you who are trying to wrap your brain around what happened, let me shorthand it for you. If you ever watched, if you were part of this, enormous group of Americans who were just glued to Succession. Do you know what this is? This is Tom Wambsgans and Greg, right? This is them with the cruise documents. This is what that is. And, Trump did this to himself. If Trump would have just said, my bad, I took stuff, I shouldn't have taken it, or my bad, I didn't know I took the stuff, here it is, you could take it back, here you go. None of this would have happened. None of it. It's not just the crime of taking things that didn't belong to him. It's the crime of lying about taking things that didn't belong to him and saying he didn't take things that didn't belong to him, and that if there were things that didn't belong to him at Magaloco, that they were planted by the FBI. That's how, the documents got, they were planted by the FBI. Then he said, oh, no, I do have things. They are mine. I was allowed to take them. And I could declassify anything in my mind if I wanted to. None of that was true. Every part of that denial of this crime, of taking things that didn't belong to him, retaining, classified, and yes, they are defense documents. Some of them were secret compartmentalized. Some of them were Five Eyes only, meaning only Australia, the UK, the 5 governments that we share intelligence with. Some of them were Five Eyes only. Some of them were satellite photographs of Iran. Others of them were, Mark Milley apparently gave him an attack plan for Iran. I don't know. This is what he said. He was waving it around and telling his staff, who were all going, yep, So now we have a problem because that's a classified document and you can't declassify because you're not president anymore. And he's like, yeah, right. Now we have a problem. I mean, it's so unbelievable what went on here. It's amazing, this indictment. Just the story is amazing. And it's all self-inflicted. None of this had to be this way. None of it. Donald Trump was given every opportunity, as was everybody who ever had classified materials in a place where they should not be. That includes Hillary Clinton, okay, who's turned over 30,000 emails. She turned them over, right? And Donald Trump refused to even acknowledge that he had in his possession classified material. He said he didn't have it, and that if he did have it, it was planted by the FBI, and then he said he did have it, and he was allowed to have it. Unfortunately for him, it's not just willful retention, wrongful retention of secret compartmentalized intelligence or unlawful. He also shared it. And that's what everybody wanted to see. Did he share this material with people not authorized to see this material? And the answer is yes. And it's actually memorialized in this indictment with a taped phone conversation between Donald Trump and his staff talking about the documents that he's waving around that he's insisting are Iran attack plans. And he does it in response to a story that was written by Susan Glasser in the New Yorker saying that Milley didn't trust Trump on his way out the door.
Clear
things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, just FYI, Fox News is not handling this, information very well.
President Trump is 76 years old. If the Department of Justice gets his way, he will die in federal prison.
Oh.
Just by one of these counts, conspiracy to obstruct justice, which has a 20-year maximum sentence.
Yeah.
This is a disgusting mark on American history for the future to come by these bandits in the White House, by the Democrat Party that don't play fair anymore. They don't want to just win elections. They want to take control of this country. They want one-party rule. And they have used the Department of Justice and the FBI to get what they want. Merrick Garland is a mob lawyer. That's what he is. Jack Reed is a rogue Soviet-style prosecutor.
Who's Jack Reed?
The Presidential Records Act is not a criminal statute, and it was never intended to be. The Espionage Act of 1917 was passed under Woodrow Wilson, another corrupt president. Mm-hmm. Woodrow Wilson used it to go after his adversaries, and they imprisoned 2,000 people.
Yeah.
So I suppose over there at the Department of Injustice, and this clown prosecutor spent a lot of time at The Hague. They probably figured these laws could be used to try and entrap Trump. All these obstruction issues that they claim, where the former Attorney General, Bill Barr, comes up here and bloviates about it, and all the formers coming on talking about obstruction. They have them on obstruction. There'd be no obstruction issue of any kind, not even in anybody's imagination, had they not criminalized this case. This is a document case. A document case where a president of the United States or a former president faces 100 years in federal prison? Is this some kind of a sick joke on the American people?
Oh man, Randy, you can keep Christmas. This'll do. And I'll tell you another thing. I've never watched more Fox News than I'm about to watch over the next 48 hours.
Oh,
this
they're
is
counting on it.
Delicious.
Oh, it's so good. But this would have to be quite a conspiracy then, wouldn't it? It would have to be a conspiracy between the Republican Secretary of State in Georgia. It would have to be a conspiracy between the Republican governor of Georgia, because, Fani Willis hasn't even gone yet with her RICO stuff. This doesn't even mention the Espionage Act, this indictment. No, this is a classic conspiracy to ferret away, to steal. That's what it. I'm going to start it. I'm going to read it for you because you need to know what this caper actually consisted of. Okay, so I'm not going to start at the beginning where they say. I'm going to start with facts, okay? And so here is the part. This is, if you're following along, if you have a copy of it, it begins on page 10, where they talk about Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency. Okay, in January of 2021, he's not president anymore, okay? He was preparing to leave the White House. Trump and his White House staff, including this guy, Walter Nauta, who's also indicted in this indictment, as part of the conspiracy, meaning it had to be more than one person. It had to be two people or more having a meeting of the minds to do a crime. Okay. And so Walter Nauta is also indicted in this particular indictment. Walter Nauta packed items, including some of Trump's boxes. Trump was personally involved in this process. Okay, so right there, his stupid little thing where, the National Archives, they're the ones that moved, or the GSA, they're the ones who moved that's a lie. That's a lie. So there's a lie. Trump caused his boxes containing hundreds of classified documents to be transported from the White House to the MAGA Loco Club. It says Mar-a-Lago Club. From January through March 15, 2021, some of Trump's boxes were stored at the Mar-a-Lago Club's white and gold ballroom, in which events and gatherings took place. Meaning this ballroom was open to the public. They include photographs of the boxes on the stage in the red and gold ballroom. Trump's boxes were for a time stacked on the ballroom stage as depicted in the photograph below, redacted to obscure the individual's identity. Well, that was kind. In March of 2021, Nauda and others moved some of Trump's boxes from the white and gold ballroom to the business center at the Magaloco Club. On April 5th, 2021, an employee at the office of Donald J. Trump, Trump Employee 1, texted another employee at that office, Trump Employee 2, to ask whether Trump's boxes could be moved out of the business center to make room for staff to use it as an office. Trump Employee 2 replied, "Whoa." Okay, so POTUS specifically asked Walter Nauda, for those boxes to be in the business center because they are his, quote, papers. Later that day, Trump Employee 1 and Trump Employee 2 exchanged the following text messages. Oh my God, they have texts. Trump Employee 2. We can definitely make it work if we move his papers into the lake room, can't we? Trump Employee 1. There's still a little room in the shower. In the shower, where his other stuff is. Is it only his papers he cares about? Because there's some other stuff in there that are not papers. Could that go into storage, or does he want everything in there on property? Employee 2, yes, anything that's not the beautiful mined paper boxes can definitely go to storage. Want to take a look at the space and start moving tomorrow morning? After the text exchange between Trump Employee 1 and 2, in April of 2021, some of Trump's boxes were moved from the business center to a bathroom and a shower at the Magaloco's lake room, which is open to the public. Okay? All right. Here's a photograph. Okay? Here's a photograph. In May of 2021, Trump directed that a storage room on the ground floor of the Magaloco Club, the storage room, be cleaned out so he could use it to store his boxes. The hallway leading to the storage room could be reached from multiple outside entrances, including one accessible from the Magaloco Club pool patio through a door that was often kept open. The storage room was near the liquor supply closet, linen room, lock shop, and various other rooms, meaning people without clearance could just happen upon these boxes and have a little look-see for their own damn selves, meaning people who actually pay $100,000 to be part of Magaloco's club could actually just go in there and see stuff in the showers, see stuff in the bathroom, see stuff on the stage. Oh, my God. It's worse. It's worse, okay? On June 24th, 2021, Trump's boxes that were in the lake room were moved to the storage room, and after the move, there were more than 80 boxes in the storage room as depicted in the photographs below. Now, I realize these are Xerox copies of the photographs, which you can actually see in color on the TV now, okay? But this is these are two pictures of boxes in the storage room. And then nobody checked on those boxes until December, okay? And then in December, Walt Nauda found several of the boxes fallen, and the contents of the boxes spilled all over the floor of the storage room, including secret documents labeled REL to USA FVEY, 5 eyes only.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country.
That's not
by
true.
far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first, and they go after him on a boxes hoax, just like the Russia hoax.
That was
and
real.
all of the others. It's been going on for 7 years. They can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out. No collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats.
Oh, my
But
God.
This is what they do. This is what they do so well. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things. But when you look at what's happened to our country in the last 3 years, we were energy independent.
No.
We had a strong military that wasn't woke.
Still do.
We were doing so well. We were respected all over the world. Got the biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history.
Tax cuts.
And what do? You have a president where an election was taken, got more votes than any sitting president in history by far, never anything even close. And they come after me.
You know, I'm thinking at this point the only thing left for him to do is the insanity plea. I don't know how else, you know, he gets out of this because they have him on tape in his own voice. You know, his lawyers who are implicated in this indictment, but obviously are not charged because they chose to cooperate and they, you know, they didn't want to. The court, they had to go to court, right? The special counsel, the Jack Smith, had to go to court in order to pierce the attorney-client privilege that people rely on when they talk to their attorneys. However, there is a caveat. There is a carve-out from the attorney-client privilege, and that is that you can't be asking your attorney, or your attorney cannot be involved in helping you commit a crime. Your attorney can only defend you against crimes that were committed without his or her help prior to you hiring them. And that in this indictment did not happen. In this indictment, Donald Trump is literally relying on his attorneys to break the law, lying on, using his attorneys and telling them to lie, telling them to destroy documents, telling them to pluck documents out of the boxes, telling them it would be better if they just got rid of the document. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And so the attorney-client privilege was pierced at a court hearing, and because the judge found that the attorneys were, if they didn't cooperate, they were helping Donald Trump commit additional crimes like witness tampering, like covering up the crime, like keeping documents that he did not have, that were subpoenaed, that were asked for, and he said he didn't have, asking the attorneys to sign off on the fact that they didn't have these documents when clearly they did. So the attorneys, were helping him commit a crime. The judge said, yeah, that's what's going on here. And so now the attorneys have to turn everything over. And so Evan Corcoran, is quoted widely, and the tapes and his notes are quoted widely in this indictment. And I mean, it's unbelievable to have Trump in his own words, to have Trump in his own voice actually telling his lawyers to commit crimes for him. I mean, I don't know how he gets out. So I'm saying like maybe an insanity plea. Anyway, we left off where obviously on December 7th, Walter Nauta goes to the storage room and he notices that the boxes fell and that they're spilled all over the floor. And that's when he sees that these are severely top secret, compartmentalized intelligence documents. I don't even know if he knew what these markings meant, except that he knew that they were secret because they said secret on them. And FVEY, which is Five Eyes only, that means that the document is only releasable to Five Eyes intelligence operators in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. That's it. See, those that's the stage. I don't know why I'm showing that now. But Nauta texted Trump's employee number 2, and he said, I opened the door and I found this. And he attached 2 photos where he took a photo of the spill, okay? And I don't think I have that, but that's what you should be showing here if you had that. 2 photographs that he took of the spill. And when you see the photograph, you see all these documents just splayed on the floor. And the employee number 2 texts employee number 1, oh no, oh no. And then he says, I'm sorry, POTUS had my phone. Which means Donald Trump uses employees' phones to send messages so that they're not traceable to him. That's also another clue about how he operates in the shadows. He also uses burner phones, which we learn in the bowels of this indictment. We also learn that he doesn't use email and he never puts anything in writing, and he doesn't say, just like Michael Cohen told you, he doesn't say, oh, I want this guy removed, or I want this guy beheaded, or I want this guy killed, or I want this guy, or... No, he just intimates. He just says enough words that you know exactly, or he motions and you know exactly what he wants to do. Anyway, he says, oh no, I'm sorry, POTUS had my phone. And one of the photographs that Walter Nauta texted to employee number 2 is, where the documents are spilled all over the floor, and that's count 8 of this indictment, okay, with the careless retention of documents. All right. Then in May of 2021, it says Trump caused some of his boxes to be brought to his summer house in Bedminster, New Jersey. Now, that was this right here is the answer to the question we had about whether or not Donald Trump actually took those documents and moved them to New Jersey. Remember when Magaloka was searched and we were all wondering what happened in New Jersey? What happened to the other house, right? Well, apparently, like the Magaloka Club, Bedminster was also not an authorized location for the storage or the possession or the review or the display or the discussion of classified documents because it's not a secure location, not a SCIF, right? But he did bring a whole bunch of documents to New Jersey. Then on July 21st, 2021, when he was no longer president, obviously, Trump gave an interview at his office in Bedminster to a writer and a publisher. And this was the Mark Meadows book discussion, right? Where this writer, this publisher, were going to write Mark Meadows, White House experience, over Mark Meadows' name, and Mark Meadows would make money off of his book. Okay, and so they were talking to Trump about Mark Meadows in Bedminster, and 2 members of the staff, Trump's staff, were in that interview, and that interview was recorded with Trump's knowledge and with Trump's consent, in case you were wondering. And before the interview, the media had published reports that at the end of Trump's term as president, Mark Milley, in this indictment it says a senior military official, but we know it's Mark Milley, feared that Trump would order an attack on Country A. Well, now we know Country A was Iran. And that Milley advised Trump against doing so. Well, when Trump greeted the writer, the publisher, and his 2 staff members, he said, "Look what I found. Look what I found. This is Mark Milley's plan of attack. Read it. Read it. It's interesting." These people had no security clearance. None whatsoever.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it, because you're sending it to Mar-a-Lago or to wherever you're sending it. And there doesn't have to be a process. There can be a process, but there doesn't have to be. You're the president. You make that decision. So when you send it, it's declassified. I declassified everything. Now, I declassified things, and we were having a lot of problems with NARA. You know, NARA is a radical left group of people running that thing. And when you send documents over there, I would say there's a very good chance that a lot of those documents will never be seen again.
Isn't that interesting? He has a feeling that some of those documents will never be seen again. I wonder why he had that feeling that some of those documents would never be seen again. All right. This is the conversation caught on tape. This is Donald Trump in his own voice. This is what the jury, if there's a jury trial, this is what they will be played. This is what they will hear. Okay. This is from the Bedminster, New Jersey meeting with Mark Meadows, publisher, and Mark Meadows, co-writer or ghostwriter, or whatever we're going to call that person. And this conversation was recorded, and Trump is in the room with 2 of his staffers, and he's referring to General Mark Milley, and greets the publisher and the writer and his 2 staff members. And he walks in the room and he says this, and this is quoted, so this is on tape, okay? He says, "Look what I found. This was Mark Milley's plan of attack. Read it." And it just shows, oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. Read it. Read it. Now, these people have no security clearance. So this is the violation of the Espionage Act, okay? This is the reason why we have an Espionage Act that says can't willfully retain the secrets of the United States of America and keep them in a place that isn't secure, which is why they raided Magaloka, we now know. Because here, Brett, if you want to, you could show the photograph of the spilled documents, the way that they treated these documents. So the documents are just like splayed all over the floor. See that right there? That is the storage room. And all these documents are just all over the floor. They're just, and the storage room is accessible by anybody who needed linens, anybody who needed to restock the bars. Okay, it's a storage freaking room. Before that, he had him in a bathroom. He had him literally in a, look at that. That's the bathroom. You see the shower there? And the box. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And he lied about all of this, okay? Anyway, now he's telling these people at Bedminster, where there are classified documents, that they should read this document, and it's our attack plan that Milley actually gives to Donald Trump so that he can see what an attack on Iran would actually require, as he's telling Donald Trump, don't attack Iran on your way out the door, okay? And so Donald Trump says, well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. Okay, meaning he's taking the document from somebody. He's like, let me see that, meaning he passed this document. So he did disseminate classified, top secret defense plans to people who have no security clearance in his summer house in Bedminster, New Jersey, where we were all wondering, did he bring documents there too? Yeah, he did. He says, well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. See, he said I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, okay? But they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Meaning, this is Mark Milley giving me the attack plan for Iran, and he's using this as evidence that Mark Milley trusted him not to attack Iran, or that Mark Milley wanted to attack Iran. I mean, he's literally taking what Mark Milley was cautioning him not to do as a reason to show that Mark Milley was telling him to attack Iran. Okay. And so the writer who's writing for Mark Meadows, who's in this meeting, he says, wow. He's stunned. And Trump says, we looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. God, he's so repetitive. It's so annoying. All sorts of stuff, pages long. Look. And he shows him the document. And the staffer goes, And Trump says, wait a minute, let's see here. And the staffer starts laughing. And then Trump says, I just found, isn't that amazing? I just found, this totally wins my case, you know. Not this case. He means the case that Milley didn't trust him to not attack Iran, because he's showing them, these people who have no clearance whatsoever, the attack plan for Iran that Milley gave Donald Trump. He said, except it's like highly confidential. And the staffer says, yeah, it is, and laughs. And Trump says, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. You attack and, by the way, isn't this incredible? And the staffer says, yeah. And Trump says, I was just thinking, because we were talking about it, and, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran, and the staffer said, you did? And he said, this was done by the military. This was given to me. I think we could probably, and the staffer says, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to try to, and Trump says, declassify it? And the staffer said, figure it out. Yeah. And then Trump says, see, as president, I could have declassified it, but now I can't, you know, but it's still secret. And the staffer tells him, yeah, that's right. And now we have a problem. And Trump says, isn't that interesting? At the time of this exchange, the writer, the publisher, and Trump's two staff members did not have security clearances or any need to know any classified information about a plan of attack on country A, which is Iran. That's what's in the indictment. Now we go to August or September of 2021, when he's no longer the president, and Trump meets at the Bedminster Club in his office with a representative of his political action committee. And during the meeting, he commented that an ongoing military operation in country B was not going well. I'm guessing that had to do with Russia invading Ukraine, but I don't know. Trump showed the PAC representative a classified map of country B, and told the representative of this PAC that he should not be showing this map to the representative, and for the representative not to get too close. The person that was representing the Political Action Committee did not have a security clearance or any need to know classified information about this ongoing military operation. That's sharing it. That's disseminating. That's not just willful retention, but that is willful dissemination. And that is why the Espionage Act is invoked here. On February 16, 2017, 4 years before the disclosures of classified information set forth above, Trump said at a press conference, quote, "The first thing I thought of when I heard about it is, how does the press get information that things are classified? I mean, how do they do it? You know why? That's an illegal process. And the press should be ashamed of themselves. But more importantly, the people that give out the information to the press, they should be ashamed of themselves, really ashamed." And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. And they just use this to show you that Donald Trump understood that doing what he was doing was something to be ashamed of. Okay, so then in May, the National Archives, NARA, which he's talking about, is some left-wing, they're librarians is what they are. They're custodians of presidential records. That's what they do. They are responsible for archiving presidential records. They repeatedly demanded that Trump turn over presidential records that he kept after his presidency. On multiple occasions, beginning in June, NARA warned Trump through his representatives that if he did not comply, they would be referring the matter to the Department of Justice. They would be referring it to the Department of Justice. Between November 21 and January 22, Walter Nauta and Trump employee 2, at Trump's direction, brought boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence for Trump to review. It's hard not to laugh, right? On November 12, 2021, Trump employee 2 provided Trump a photograph of the boxes in the storage room by taping it to one of the boxes that employee 2 had placed in Trump's residence. Employee 2 provided Trump the photograph so that Trump could see how many of his boxes were stored in the storage room. The photograph depicts a wall of the storage room against which dozens of Trump boxes were stacked. And now the text messaging begins, because now NARA has asked for the boxes back, and Trump doesn't want to give the boxes back. And so Trump is now going to engage various other people in his conspiracy to commit crimes to cover up the fact that he, A, has them, B, that he's shown them to people who have no business seeing them, and C, that he's moving them from room to room.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Yeah, definitely not handling it well.
You want to talk about an insurrection? This is an insurrection. And that's exactly what's going on here. Let me go on. Joe Biden is the crookedest crook that's ever been in the Oval Office. Everywhere we look, there's a predicate for a special counsel. They won't appoint a special counsel, even though it's compelled under the law in which they appointed this special counsel.
What?
And you're not supposed to appoint a special counsel against your political opponent. You're supposed to appoint one in the case of Biden. 20 shell corporations. $10 million coming from the communist Chinese military, spread out among the family. No businesses to support this. Endless meetings with Biden's with Hunter Biden's business partners. Bob Alinsky, who ties Joe Biden to the crimes.
One
Mr.
guy.
Big, Mr. 10%. And what does Biden say? Well, then where's the money?
Right.
He's asking us. Come and catch me if you can. No. The idea that this man isn't under a criminal investigation and that they criminalized that damn document case to go after Donald Trump is sickening. And I would say this to our fellow Americans. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels and these fools who come on and tell you, well, he's not above the law. Are you kidding me? Democrat Attorney General in New York, Democrat prosecutor in Manhattan, Democrat prosecutor in Atlanta, Democrat Attorney General in Washington, D.C. What do you mean he's not above the law? There is no law. What's going on here is a disgusting disgrace.
Don't you have money to raise for Hillsdale College or some such crap, Mark? Don't you have money to raise for the Heritage Foundation? Don't you have to be their shill right now? What are you doing? What are you doing? So far, this president, this former president, has been indicted twice, 2 times. One for falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments that he paid to porn star Stormy Daniels. Now, I don't think that what I say about that particular case, I said maybe Bragg is just doing a CYA if that's all there is. I don't care. Remember that? I don't think very many people did. Then E. Jean Carroll was able to bring a case in civil court, and she got a jury to agree that Donald Trump sexually assaulted her in a dressing room in Bergdorf Goodman's. Now we're looking at criminal indictment number 2. Okay. We also have a civil case where the Trump organization was found guilty of 17 counts of tax fraud. Okay. So we have falsifying business records, 17 counts of tax fraud, and an assault on E. Jean Carroll in a dressing room in Bergdorf Goodman in Manhattan, all guilty. Okay. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Now you have indictment number 2. This is federal indictment. Okay, federal indictment having to do with the willful retention without security, without protecting, without, and actually then willfully disseminating classified defense information to people who have no need to know, no business to know, no clearances to know, and just bragging and handing them documents and go, look at that, look at that, look at that. And looking at maps of an ongoing, I have to believe it's Russia. I mean, it's so unbelievable. Now Donald Trump actually met with Russians in the Oval Office without any what we call note takers. And people were, note takers? What's a note taker? No, we actually have them. We have them to document all presidential conversations, especially with adversaries, especially with foreign governments, even if they're allies, for the record, for the presidential record that will be archived post-presidency, okay? So we have him meeting with the Russians in the Oval Office. We have him sharing Iranian, remember this? Everybody saw it. You saw it. I saw it. We have no need to know. We have no clearance. He tweeted, when he was still on Twitter, satellite photos of Iran. Satellite photos of Iran's military, of Iran's, nuclear facilities. He tweeted that. Then he shows documents at dinner in Magaloko. Remember that? The TV captured him showing, I don't know if it was the Japanese ambassador, somebody who was just, and some presidential advice was sought during some contretemps during that day. And he puts, he allows a foreign government to listen in. He uses burner phones. He burned, he flushed, he tore. Remember, he was tearing documents and people didn't know what to do because those are presidential records. And so they were taping things back together. Remember that? And now in the end, he steals documents and shows them to people who aren't authorized to see them and then lies about it, not just to his staff, not just to his attorneys, implicating them in a criminal conspiracy, okay, but also to the FBI. Yeah. And obstructs an investigation yet again, which is his, his MO. I mean, he has a modus operandi. He has a way that he operates. And that's what the Mueller report actually, the volume 2 of the Mueller report was all about. All these instances, there were 10 of them, where Donald Trump tried to obstruct the Mueller investigation. And the only reason why Donald Trump wasn't indicted during that period of time is because he was the president, which is why he wants to be the president again. He wants to be the president again so he can, I swear to God, be immunized, because this isn't going to come to trial. Likely this isn't going to come to trial before the election of 2024. I doubt it. It could. But, he's the master of delay, We do have a rocket docket here in Florida, meaning that, the judges like to keep things rolling in their courtrooms. But we do have this question about what to do with these classified documents. Are we going to have a jury that has to apply for security clearance? I mean, how do you even present these classified documents to a jury that is not authorized to see them? Does the judge have a security clearance? Because I know in D.C. a lot of them do, because they have to, convict, like Lieutenant Colonel Robert Burcham. Okay, he was just convicted, given 3 years for doing exactly this. And why was Lieutenant Colonel Robert Burcham hoarding classified documents? Because he was a hoarder. He actually had PTSD. He was deployed to Iraq, I think 6 or 7 times, this guy. And the last time he was deployed, he literally was in treatment for PTSD, and we still drafted, well, I won't say drafted because you'll misconstrue what I mean, but we still told him to go to deploy to a war zone. Anyway, he obviously was suffering from PTSD. He obviously had been through a lot. And this Lieutenant Colonel, Robert Burcham, was hoarding classified documents, and he got caught, and he cooperated. He said, yes, I did. I took these documents. I shouldn't have. Listen, I'm not myself. I had 6 deployments. My 6th and final combat deployment happened after I was diagnosed with PTSD. And so, I don't know. I wasn't behaving correctly. And so they found a thumb drive, and they found a couple of classified documents stashed in his house and in a storage pod, the pods, parked in his driveway. He cooperated, and he got 3 years. Trump did not cooperate, and he's looking at 10 years, 20 years actually, just for the obstruction, 20 years for lying to the FBI. So, yeah, he'll die in jail. Anyway, and this has, Mark Levin, all his panties are just in a giant bunch. He's beside himself.
That bubble he calls ahead is about to bust.
Well, he's always been like, there, I said it. I mean, I had the show that was before him and Hannity's show. But last night, Hannity, because, I had to watch Fox to see how they're going to deal with this, revelation. But last night, the document was sealed. Last night, this indictment was sealed, and nobody knew exactly what was in it. And so they were reporting there were 7 counts, and one was conspiracy. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. 37 counts, okay? A conspiracy and a conspirator also indicted in the same indictment. And violations of everything from lying to the FBI to, the Espionage Act violations of not just willfully retaining and not securing classified information, but showing it to people, disseminating it. That's dangerous.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It's always fun to listen in retrospect. Now that we know what we know, listen to him.
There's also a lot of speculation because of what they did, the severity of the FBI coming and raiding Mar-a-Lago. Were they looking for the Hillary Clinton emails that were deleted, but they are around someplace?
Oh, my God.
Were they looking for the spying on Trump's...
you had it.
No, they may be saying, they may have thought that it was in there.
Okay.
And a lot of people said the only thing that would give the kind of severity that they showed by actually coming in and raiding with many, many people is the Hillary Clinton deal, the Russia stuff, or... there are a number of things. The spying on Trump's campaign. So they spied on my campaign. So why did they come in and do that?
I'm telling you, insanity. Because now when you go back and you listen to what he's saying to you, what he's saying to the country, what he was saying to a giant audience that was tuned in for this all those many months ago, okay? And he knew exactly why they were there. He knew that he had moved hundreds of materials. He knew that he had taken them to Bedminster. He knew what Walter Nauta was doing. He knew that he moved them from a stage to a bathroom, and from a bathroom to a shower, and then into his office. Then he took them to Bedminster, and he put them in his living room in Bedminster, some of them, and some of them he left in his residence. Some were in his desk. And he was sharing them with people unauthorized with no security clearances or no need to know. War plans of active operations that were going on. And also, Milley's, operational plan for Iran should we ever attack, so that Trump would understand what it meant to say he would attack Iran. Just handing these come here, look at this. Look at the, and he actually has the balls to sit on Hannity and say, you know what they were looking for? They were looking for Hillary's emails. That's the only thing that remember, they had videotape. They had surveillance tape that somebody, showed them about these, and then when the FBI first went and made their cursory evaluation of whether or not the National Archives had a genuine beef with him, they saw you remember they saw all these documents in storage rooms, and they said, you better put a lock on that. Remember? They saw those documents. They knew they were there, so they went back to try and get a subpoena. And Donald Trump understood what was going to happen, and so he instructed these two employees, Walter Nauta and another guy who's not named, and I don't know why. Maybe he's trying to enter into a deal. Maybe he has entered into a deal. I don't know. But there's two staffers that are responsible for moving all these boxes, okay? And they're on tape. They're on tape and texting each other, and their texts have been turned over. So that kind of says to me that one actually cooperated and the other one didn't, and Nauta didn't. And Nauta is indicted here, too, not just for doing this, but for lying to the FBI about doing this. And his FBI interview transcript is here. It's here. There's also a text message from somebody from the Trump family that isn't identified except as a female. And we know that because pronouns. On May 30th, 2022, at 12:33 p.m., a Trump family member texted Walter Nauta. Good afternoon, Walt. Happy Memorial Day. I saw you put boxes in POTUS's room, just FYI, and I will tell him as well. Not sure how many he may want to take on Friday on the plane. We will not have room for them. Plane will be full of luggage. Thank you. So at that point, I don't know who that is. But then, good afternoon, ma'am. Smiley face emoji. Oh, ma'am. Hey, it's Ivanka. I doubt it's Melania. The English is perfect. Thank you so much. I think he wanted to pick from them. I don't imagine wanting to take the boxes. He told me to put them in the room and that he was going to talk to you about them. Whoops. So Ivanka knows about them too. That means Jared knows about them too. Now, this is what eventually happened. This tape here has no audio. But here you see a scene out of Succession. No. That is not Logan Roy and his family. That is Donald Trump getting on his private plane for a trip to Bedminster. This is the exact trip that is being referred to in these texts between Ivanka and Walt Nauta. Now, there's a box. Here it comes. See that box? There's some more boxes. Being loaded onto the plane. Don't let him bring the boxes. We don't have room. They'll be full of luggage, which was their way of waving him off. Okay? Now here, we're going to see boxes that are covered. See? They're covered in black. I don't know what it's made out of. I can't, I can't allege or assert. But I will tell you that in this indictment, he tells Walt Nauta that the boxes have too much writing on them and that, he understood that there would be cameras here. And he didn't want the press to be able to read. Here, see these boxes? They're all wrapped up in black. And duffel bags and all that crap, because he didn't want the press to be able to see the markings on the box. So Walter actually takes care of that for him. In a text message, he says that one thing he asked was for new covers for the boxes for Monday. This is Memorial Day, May 8th, 2021. And he said, can we get new box covers before giving these to them on Monday? They have too much writing on them. I marked them too much. And employee number 2 responds to Walt and says, yeah, I'll get to that. I'll do it. And there's the video that backs up that happened. I mean, and the next, I'll say 3 pages of this indictment, they actually attest to how many boxes were moved and when they were moved. And you're talking 15 boxes that were turned over. And now you're talking what was in those boxes. 14 of the boxes contained documents with classification markings. This is what he gave the FBI. Remember, he gave him 15 boxes and we all thought, oh, well, he's surrendered everything, right? 197 of those documents had classification markings. 98 were marked secret. 30 were marked top secret. The remainder were marked confidential. Some of them had the SEI, secret compartmented intelligence, meaning they separate the whole story and they just give you pieces of the story to people who need to work on that part of the story, compartmented. And then SAP, which means special access, that's... people that actually have to do stuff or tell people in the field about stuff, or people who are in the field. Okay, special access. So he had some of that too. And everybody thought, well, he turned him over, nothing to see here. Okay. Well, then the FBI actually visits, right? And the FBI actually sees the surveillance tape, and the FBI sees there were hundreds of boxes. And they see videotapes of people moving the boxes. And that's when they go back to the court and they ask for, that's when they go to the court in the first place, and they ask for a subpoena. That's May 11th. They ask the grand jury for a subpoena. And they realize that there are more boxes, and he's not producing. He's not, he's lying. This is when he gets his attorneys involved. And we now know the attorneys were Evan Corcoran and Christina Bopp. And Evan Corcoran says, let me come and let me look and let me see what you still have. And then I can write a letter saying you don't have anything, but I need to come and check. So on May 22nd, 2022, is a year after he's moved everything, he shows up there.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Bad things came out today. Those classified. The word classified. This was not just extreme carelessness with classified material, which is still totally disqualifying. This is calculated, deliberate, premeditated misconduct. The Secretary of State was extremely careless and negligent in handling our classified secrets. She lied about passing on classified information, right? In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. She said she sent nothing marked classified. A total lie. We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified. Put classified information in the reach of our enemies. Classified, confidential. They're so classified, they're beyond classified. And maybe classified at the highest level. How sad.
Talk about projection, baby. Oh, my God. It's amazing. This is like the full circle moment. This is like the height of irony. This is an O. Henry play. Really, it is. Lock her up, lock him up. Honestly, and the idea that they're moving these boxes. Okay, we left off with that little videotape. So that videotape was May 8th of 2021. They get the subpoena almost a year to the day later. That's how long it took them to get the subpoena. So they didn't get the subpoena until May 11th, 2022. Yeah. And by then, Walt Nauta and the other employee and his lawyers and everybody else, I mean, they're like moving stuff, just putting it everywhere. And so anyway, he gets the subpoena. He calls his lawyer, right? And he says, I just got the subpoena, the office of Donald J. Trump, requiring the production of all documents with classification markings in the possession, custody, or control of Trump or the office of Donald J. Trump. And the two attorneys that are representing Donald Trump, it's, obviously now in the indictment it says Trump attorney 1 and 2. But we know who those people are now, and it makes it so much more readable and easy to follow the story. Evan Corcoran is attorney 1, and Christina Bopp is attorney number 2. Okay? So the subpoena is issued on the 11th. On May 22nd, 2022, Walter Nauta enters the storage room at Magaloco at 3:47. He leaves 34 minutes later carrying one of Trump's boxes. The next day, May 23rd, Trump meets with Attorney 1 Evan Corcoran and Christina Bopp at Magaloco to discuss what the response to the 11th subpoena should be. So Corcoran and Bopp tell Trump they need to do a search. They need to search for the documents and any documents that would be responsive, right, to the subpoena. They would need to turn back over to, the FBI now, or they could attest in a certification letter that they had searched and that you are in compliance with the subpoena, meaning you have nothing. You have no documents that would be responsive to the subpoena for anything at all that has classified markings on it of any kind. Okay. And so he says to them, he makes the following statements to them, among others, as Evan Corcoran's notes memorialize. Evan Corcoran is taking notes of everything his dirty client is saying, okay? And that's why Evan Corcoran flips, okay? Because he knows he's going to jail too, because he was read into this by Donald Trump. So he tells Donald Trump this. He says, A, I don't want anybody looking. I don't want anybody looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. That's number one. Number two, he then suggests to Evan Corcoran this. Well, what happens if we just don't respond at all? What if we don't play ball with them? Number three, he says, wouldn't it be better if we don't have anything here? Number four, well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents? This is why Evan Corcoran was read into the crime, the caper. And this is when Evan Corcoran understands he better take notes. And this is what Evan Corcoran writes down after that meeting. And this is what is now in this indictment as being Evan Corcoran's notes that commemorate May 23rd, 2022, when Donald Trump tells him, I don't want you looking in my boxes. I have boxes that are responsive, and I don't want anybody to know about it. Then he brags about how Hillary Clinton's lawyers did a great job. He says this. He said, it says attorney. I'm guessing this is David Kendall. I don't know who the attorney he's referring to as, but he tells the following story, and he tells it multiple times during the day, that day. He says, attorney was great. He did a great job. You know what he said? He said that if it were him, that if he was the one who deleted all the emails, the 30,000 emails, because they basically dealt with her scheduling and her going to the gym and her having her beauty appointments. And so he could delete them because he had access to her computer, and he was great. And so she didn't get in any trouble because he said that he was the one who deleted all the emails. She turned over 30,000 emails. You know that, right? Okay. Anyway, he tells that story repeatedly that day, according to the indictment. He also confirms his understanding with Evan Corcoran that Evan Corcoran would return to Magaloco on the 2nd of June to look for any more documents with classification markings so that he could respond to the May 11th subpoena. And Corcoran actually makes it clear to Trump that he needs to conduct a search. And he has to find whether or not there are any documents on the premises that are responsive to the subpoena before he can write a certification letter. And Trump indicates to him, well, I want to be at Magaloco when you do it. I want to be there when you search. I need to be there. So he changes his plans for the summer, and he leaves Bedminster early, and he goes down to Magaloco in June, so that he could be with Evan Corcoran when Evan Corcoran searches the property. Okay? And then he tells Christina Bopp she doesn't need to be there at all. She shouldn't be there for the review of the boxes. She shouldn't show up. After meeting with Corcoran and Bopp on May 23rd, he delays his departure from Magaloco. Oh, and I'm sorry, he was going from Magaloco to New Jersey for the summer because that's what people here in Florida do. They don't stay here now. They don't stay here during June, July, August, September. Everybody gets the hell out of here and goes north. They're called snowbirds. He's one of those, okay? So he delays his departure to New Jersey so he could be at Magaloco on the 2nd of June when Corcoran is going to review the boxes. Well, between May 23rd the meeting that he had with Christina and Evan to discuss how to respond to the subpoena, Walter Nauta removes 64 boxes from the storage room and brings them to Trump's residence. On May 24th, 2022, between 5:30 and 5:38, Walter Nauta removed 3 boxes from the storage room. On May 30th, they spoke by phone for 30 seconds, and then Nauta removed 50 more boxes from the storage room. And then on May 20th, that's when the female member of the Trump family texts Walter and says, do not put them on the airplane to Bedminster, do not. There's no room. It's full of luggage, and he does it anyway.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent.
This is warfare for the law, and we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Our country is going to hell, and they come after Donald Trump.
And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination.
They're trying to destroy your reputation so they can win an election. That's just as bad as doing any of the other things that have been done over the last number of years, and especially during the 2020 election.
People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
So I just want to tell you, I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong.
It sort of does make Richard Nixon look like a Boy Scout, like a schoolboy. You know what I mean? So here's basically the timeline of what happened after the subpoena. So the subpoena's been issued. He tells Evan Corcoran, "Oh, I don't want you to search. I don't want you to look at my boxes. I don't want you to see. Why don't we just get rid of the boxes? Why don't we just say we don't have any boxes? Hillary's lawyer would do it. Hillary's lawyer would delete her stuff. Why don't you just be a good lawyer and do that for me?" Right? And now Evan Corcoran knows he's been read into a crime, and that Trump intends to lie to the Department of Justice because the subpoena was issued by the NARA through the Department of Justice, right? Okay, so May 23rd, there's that meeting, and Evan Corcoran understands he better start taking notes, he better start recording his client, he better start doing things to cover his ass. He's just been told that the former president of the United States of America is going to commit acts of espionage, that he's going to willfully, illegally retain classified, top secret, compartmentalized intelligence, that he's conspiring with others to hide the boxes, he's going to obstruct a subpoena, he's going to lie. He's already witness tampering. He's tampering with his lawyers. He's tampering with the staff at Magaloka, and he intends to lie to the FBI. All those things he does do. All of those things are charged in this particular indictment. So May 23rd, he has that meeting, and Corcoran understands he's on notice. On May 24th, the next day, they start moving boxes. They move 3 boxes. I don't know what's in those 3, but those 3 were the most important to him to get moved. A couple days later, May 30th, they move 50 boxes, okay? Then on Memorial Day, he loads a whole bunch of boxes that are shrouded in some black and that are, the writing is, whited out so nobody can read what's on the boxes, which are clearly markings of classification, status, etc. And he loads them onto the plane. And then on June 1st, Corcoran, who had made plans to inspect the place on June 2nd so he could write his certification letter, he confirms with Trump, "I'm coming tomorrow to do the inspection. Is that okay? You're going to be there, right? You said you wanted to be there. I'm just confirming that tomorrow I'm going to come." Well, that day he moves 11 more boxes. Okay, that day they ended up moving almost 100 boxes ahead of Corcoran's inspection. Okay, so on the afternoon of June 2nd, just like, Trump had been informed, Corcoran arrives at Magaloco to look at the boxes for classification to see if anything is responsive to the May 11th subpoena. Trump meets with Corcoran, before they conduct the review, and Walter Nauta escorts Mr. Corcoran to the storage room. This happens between 3:53 and 6:23 in the evening. And, Evan Corcoran reviews the contents of the boxes in the storage room. He finds, even after they moved everything, he finds 38 documents. This is what we heard. Remember? We heard, he found 38 documents. That's all that he saw because everything else had been moved, which we didn't know until today. 38 documents with classification markings, which were inside some boxes. And so he placed those in a red weld folder. He put clear duct tape on the storage room. He asked Walter Nauta to put clear duct tape on the storage room to protect the storage room. And Walter Nauta did that. And Corcoran used the duct tape to seal the folder that he collected the 38 documents in, the ones that had classification markings on, inside too. He uses duct tape. Okay. So after Corcoran finishes sealing the red weld folder containing the documents with the classification markings that he had found inside Trump's boxes, Nauta takes Corcoran to the dining room in the Magaloco Club to meet with Trump. And this is just pure Trump. Okay, this is stunning. So after Corcoran finishes his, discovery, finishes and finds 38 documents, Trump says, "Did you find anything? Is it bad?" The sweet little country mouse who's been moving boxes for weeks now, okay, and putting them on his plane. You can see him in that videotape standing at the stairs of the plane, and they're moving the boxes into the plane, and he's taking them to Bedminster. Anyway, Corcoran and Trump discuss what's in that folder, and that they have classification markings on it, and that Corcoran needs to, bring them to his hotel room and put them in a safe there. And during that conversation, Trump says, well, he doesn't say. He makes this plucking motion. And Corcoran writes this down. And here's how Evan Corcoran's notes read. He made a funny motion as though, well, okay, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room? And if there's anything really bad in there, pluck it out. Pluck it out. And that was the motion he made. If there's anything bad in there, he said, and then made a motion to pluck it out. He didn't say pluck it out, though. This is what's in Evan Corcoran's notes. Well, that night, Corcoran contacts the Department of Justice and asks for an FBI agent to meet him at Magaloco the next day, June 3rd, so he could turn over documents that were responsive to the subpoena. That night, Corcoran contacts another Trump attorney, attorney number 3, that's Christina Bobb, and asks her if she would come to the Magaloco Club the next morning and act as a custodian of records. And sign a certification regarding the search for documents with classification markings on them in response to the May 11th subpoena. She was told, don't come. Remember? He said, don't you come. When he does the inspection, you stay back. You don't go. You don't look. Okay? She says, yeah, I'll sign off on it. I'll sign anything, basically, is what her opinion was. And so the next day, at Corcoran's request, which is why he is involved in a crime, Christina Bobb signs a certification as the custodian of records for the office of Donald J. Trump, takes it to the Magaloco Club, and gives it to the Department of Justice and the FBI. She performed no search of the Trump boxes, and she signs off on a document that says, a diligent search was conducted of the boxes that were moved from the White House to Florida. This search was conducted after receipt of the subpoena in order to locate any and all documents that are responsive to the subpoena. Any and all responsive documents accompany this certification. Everything in that was false. Everything in that was false. And that's how we end up here. So they have a false certification. They have 2 attorneys that are committing crimes with Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump has the nerve to say, oh, they were looking for Hillary's emails, and I'm an open book. This man is such a con artist. It is just, it's bizarre. So here we have him indicted the first time for 34 counts of business document fraud, meaning in the hush money case. He's guilty of sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll at a jury trial. And now we have criminal indictment 2 from the feds, which includes illegal retention of documents, illegal dissemination of documents, conspiracy to cover all that up, an obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and a conspiracy to cover up, and a conspiracy to lie to the FBI, and actual lying to the FBI. We're not even in Atlanta yet, where there's obviously a RICO case that's percolating, okay? And that includes the Republican Secretary of State, Mark Levin, and the Republican governor of Georgia, who also participated in being witnesses against Donald Trump for the district attorney in Fulton County. And then we still have Jack Smith, who's still out there, still doing work. Although the indictment has been issued in the Miami case, and the reason why it's in Miami is because the bulk of the crimes happened here. I mean, I guess he had his choice. Could have brought it in Washington, where the documents were originally stolen. Could have brought it in New Jersey, where the documents were illegally, transferred. But the bulk of the crimes, the conspiracy to obstruct, the retention of the although I will say the dissemination of the intelligence material happened in New Jersey. So, he had to choose his venue carefully. But we're not even up to January 6th yet. We're not even up to sending fake electors. We're not even up to the violence that was visited on our Capitol. We're not even up to any of that stuff yet. And that really ought to do it for any sensible voter in this country. The cult members are going to do whatever the cult leader tells them to do, including drink the Kool-Aid. Something Evan Corcoran and Christina Bobb thought they were prepared to do. Yeah, not so much. No. Have a great weekend.
Clear/donate.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Former President Donald Trump on the campaign trail, slamming the 37-count indictment against him that was unsealed Friday.
The baseless indictment of me by the Biden administration's weaponized Department of Injustice will go down as among the most horrific abuses of power in the history of our country.
Trump, speaking before crowds of supporters in Georgia and North Carolina, railed against the Justice Department and called the investigation into his mishandling of classified documents a witch hunt.
Witch hunt, scam, hoax. It's called election interference, and they're doing the best they can with it.
Something his former attorney general disputes.
This idea of presenting Trump as a victim here, a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yes, he's been a victim in the past, but this is much different. He's not a victim here. He was totally wrong that he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has.
But Trump's staunchest allies are rallying to his defense.
They're indicting President Trump on Tuesday for having material that he declassified that was protected by the Secret Service. And the people who are doing it is the administration, the Justice Department, from his opponent in the upcoming presidential election. This is as political as it gets.
The indictment paints a damning picture of a former president who allegedly kept some of the country's most sensitive secrets in unsecure locations throughout his Mar-a-Lago resort, including a ballroom, a bathroom, and a storage room. A far cry from the stance he took as a presidential candidate in 2016.
We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified.
The documents Trump had in his possession were concerning United States nuclear programs.
Oh, my God.
Potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack. And plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. In an interview with Politico aboard his plane, Trump told a reporter he does not believe he will be convicted, and he doesn't plan on taking a plea deal, though he left open the possibility of doing so if they pay me some damages.
If they pay me.
Trump is set to travel to Miami later today and appear in federal court there on Tuesday. In anticipation, local and federal officials are ramping up security, and the FBI is monitoring potential threats of violence.
We want to make sure that all our citizens know that they're going to be able to express their First Amendment rights, and at the same time, we're going to keep them safe, and we're going to make sure that there is no disorder.
Oh, good luck with that. I just hope it rains is all I could say. You know, listen, this is the Trump supporters. What do? They attacked the Capitol in January, D.C. in January. It's freaking freezing. And now Florida in freaking June when it just pours and thunders and what's next? They're gonna attack Death Valley in the middle of August? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But listen, there better not be any violence here. There really better not. We're a stand your ground state, you understand, and there's nothing stopping those people from firing at you if they feel threatened by you and your evidence. And there is so much evidence. It's a mountain of evidence. I hope that you got to read at least some of this indictment. This indictment is it's not a speaking indictment. It's a screaming in your face indictment. This man can never, ever be trusted with secrets that keep us safe or secrets that we would use in order to retaliate against terrorist attacks. Do you know what the content of these documents were? I mean, these documents laid out the vulnerabilities that we have as a nation, as a country, as a geographical location in case anybody would attack us. It's literally the Death Star, okay? It was like the blueprint of the Death Star where, he had to go in there and find the little vulnerability and shoot his little, bullet into that vulnerability to blow up the Death Star, Luke Skywalker did. I mean, that's pretty much where we're at here with what was in these documents. It was the vulnerabilities in the United States defense shield, our defense plans, where our nukes are. What? And the psychos, the sycophants, the straitjacket crowd, and they're this close to literally needing one to stop harming themselves and others. Obviously, they're willing to harm us. Obviously. They think, this is what's so weird, they think that Donald Trump is at war with the Death Star. They think that Donald Trump is at war with the deep state. I got news for you. He is the deep state. Tomorrow, when he surrenders himself, he's going to be arrested. Obviously, we won't see it. And now you understand why we won't, because people in this country just can't handle it. They just can't watch justice be done. They can't watch the process. They can't watch anything bad happen to their dear leader. I mean, it's like they're part of a death cult, which, by the way, Ann Coulter let them go at each other is what I say, right? But Charlie Kirk is telling all of the Republican candidates that they really need to stop their campaigns or end their campaigns in solidarity with poor Donald Trump. Poor Donald Trump. They have to stop their campaigns in solidarity and let him be the nominee. Just step aside. And Ann Coulter was like telling Charlie Kirk's followers, why don't you just all kill yourselves, get it over with, like drink the Kool-Aid already and just, lay down and get it over with because you will go there for him. I mean, it's very sick, but let them go after each other is kind of a good deal for the normal people that toil and try to raise kids in this here country right now, in this climate, in this unbelievable climate. Anyway, tomorrow when he goes and surrenders himself, I don't know if they're going to ask him for a plea. I don't know if they're going to do a hearing or treat it as an arraignment or both. If they do both, then, he gets to enter his plea and not have to go back tomorrow. So, but when he surrenders himself, they will arrest him. They will arrest him, I hope, out of the sights of the cameras, even though some of us, most of us, the decent ones among us really would like to see some justice be done with regard to this guy. But here's the thing. He's going to have to he'll then be turned over to the FBI because it's federal. It's a federal crime. And then they will fill out their paperwork. And in their paperwork will be the question, have you ever been arrested before? And the former president, the president of the United States, number 45, has to answer yes to that question. Because he's been arrested before, like a few weeks ago, for falsifying business records to hide hush money payments to a porn star. I mean, listen, honestly, this is so granularly disgusting, but this is dangerous. This particular indictment has a lot of information about the types of documents that he was hoarding, and I don't, it does, it does show intent to obstruct, and it does show intent because he entered into a conspiracy. It does show that he sabotaged his own damn self and the United States of America's, national security. But the people who support him don't give a rat's ass, okay? Because they have been brainwashed into believing that as long as he gets away with it, it's okay. And that he is somehow fighting the deep state for their benefit. He is the deep state. You understand that, right? I mean, go down your list of things that, make up the deep state. Everything from, sexual abuse and sexual assault, misogyny and pedophilia, Jeffrey Epstein's friendship and all that crap, right? And pictures of him and Melania and I mean... I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you, but this man has just recently been found guilty by a jury of sexual assault in a freaking changing room in a Manhattan upper crusty, seriously, I couldn't afford anything in Bergdorf's, you know what I mean? My sister worked in Bergdorf. She worked there. She worked there at the I think it was the Estee Lauder counter. She worked there. She couldn't shop there, but she worked there. Do you know what I'm saying? And you're defending this man. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So they proved that he intended to do it. They didn't prove motive. Like, why? Why did he do it? They don't have to prove motive why he did it. For all we care, he could have been, so transactional, everything was for sale, or just a hoarder.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is a hugely significant development. It's the first time in American history that a former president has been indicted on federal charges, and it comes shortly on the heels of the first time in American history that a former president had been indicted on state charges. Well, if you lie to federal prosecutors, it doesn't matter if you're the former president of the United States. And that's actually, while this is a serious and somber occasion, it's actually an example of one of the positives of America, accountability to the rule of law, even at the highest levels. Now, does it mean that he can't run for president? No. We live in a country where, in the United States, rightly or wrongly, a convicted felon, even if he's convicted, can be elected president. He could even, in theory, serve as president while incarcerated.
We have some loopholes we need to close. You think? Listen, I will tell you that if he is convicted under the Espionage Act, which does not mean, let's just clear this up right now. The Espionage Act includes a lot of offenses that aren't spying, okay? The Espionage Act includes not carelessness, but includes having classified materials, disseminating classified materials, transmitting classified materials, showing classified materials to people who have no authority to see them, no clearance to see them, no need to know to see them. And a lot of people have gone to jail under the Espionage Act who aren't spies. So some of the names that I wrote down so that you could be reminded are like Sandy Berger. He had to cop a plea. Okay, Sandy Berger took some materials he wasn't entitled to take, and he copped a plea. They took him to court. Okay, they went almost all the way with him. He was facing real jail time, and he took a few things and stuck them in his sock, and they arrested him and prosecuted him. And then at the very close of the whole episode, he copped a plea. He said he had done it. He cooperated, and so he wasn't given any jail time. Well, President Trump has that as an out too, but he says, "Oh no, I'm not going to cop a plea. I'm not going to take." David Petraeus, General David Petraeus. Maybe that's high enough on the food chain for you to appreciate. Reality winner. She was prosecuted by Donald Trump's DOJ because she took one classified document. One classified document. What was the document showing that Reality Winner took? the document that Reality Winner took was a document that showed that the United States intelligence community knew that Russia had hacked into the voter registration rolls ahead of the 2016 election. And Trump found that so mortifyingly embarrassing that he could have and did get help from Russia that he literally prosecuted her for this one document, and she got 5 years in a federal penitentiary. Julian Assange, they wanted to, he's managed to, run and hide and go to places that don't have extradition and then, get Americans worked up about not letting him, be extradited because we will try him under the Espionage Act for having classified materials he shouldn't have had. The only reason why Assange and Roger Stone, they were the cutouts for Russia. Okay, Russia hacked the DNC. Russia got all the documents that it needed. Roger Stone was the cutout for Donald Trump's campaign. He didn't work on the campaign. And he was coordinating with Julian Assange, who had the documents as a depository for those documents, right? Coordinating their release whenever, stories got difficult for Donald Trump, like the Access Hollywood tape, release more emails, release more stuff. Release more of Debbie Wasserman Schultz emails, or release more risotto recipes, that kind of thing. And they were cutouts. And that's why you couldn't prove collusion between the Russian government and Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had Roger Stone and various assorted other scoundrels running interference and, doing the dirty work for him. I'm so serious about this. So anyway, not to digress, but I know there's no one in this audience, no one at all, who can argue that Trump didn't do anything wrong without going to whataboutism. Okay, I know that. It's all they got is whataboutism. But they're going to forget a couple things. They're going to forget that Hillary Clinton was hunted down by the FBI, that Comey did do an investigation into her emails and into that server that was not secured, and he did not find intent to commit a crime the way that we found it with Donald Trump. We didn't find obstruction the way that we found it with Donald Trump. We didn't find that she transmitted information the way that Donald Trump showed information to people who had no authorization to see this information. They are not the same case. And Hillary Clinton was investigated for it, which is a nice little detail that the right wing likes to leave out. The other little detail they like to leave out is the entire Durham report, okay, which looked into Crossfire Hurricane and the opening of the Russia investigation at the Mueller investigation, right? And found no wrongdoing, nothing, zero, zip, zilch, goose egg, squat, donut, not one indictment, not one case. I think he got one lawyer who, on the fourth FISA warrant to the same court, on the fourth FISA warrant, he wrote something erroneously. He wrote something wrong. And he actually said, I made a mistake. And they actually let him plead. And that was that. That was it. That was all that Durham ever found. But they're going to leave out the fact that these things have already been investigated from stem to stern. And for some strange reason, Donald Trump shouldn't be investigated, even though he's got stuff in his toilet, which, by the way, should be a separate crime. And I don't mean, that he had him, in his toilet. I mean, that toilet. Did you see that bathroom? Oh, my God. 1980s called. They want your granite back. Holy crap. With a chandelier dangling and all the boxes. Oh, my God. You talk about a document dump. And Magaloco is a place where Chinese spies have gone. Magaloco. I mean, it's like he has wedding receptions there. He has people going in and out of there, thousands of people. And that's in the first part of the indictment, okay? The first part of it talks about the quality of the national security information that was in there. It was very important, high quality, super, super secret. And the fact that he put the people who risk their lives to gather those secrets for us in the field, in hostile places. Look at what goes. I mean, if you're a CIA person operating in Russia right now, okay, or even if you're an American, trying to do anything in Russia, like play basketball. Putin is so desperate to have leverage over America that he just takes people, right? He just picks them up. So can you imagine if you were caught being some sort of a CIA person for the United States in Russia right now? I mean, nobody wants to actually deal with the amount of life that he put in harm's way or in jeopardy. And I don't know if you remember this or not. May I invite you to please visit us at either randyrhodes.com and click on homework, or sign up at randyrhodes.substack.com and, get the homework every day in your inbox for free. Because in the homework today is a flashback story to October 5th, 2021. Do you remember at all what was going on in October of 2021 after Trump left with these documents? Looks like so many, there was a rash of counterintelligence officers being kidnapped and murdered.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, hey, everybody. Hey, it is Pledge Drive. It has begun. It started today. It will go on for 2 weeks. And here's a challenge for you. I need 1,000 new donors in 3 days. If I can get 1,000 people to donate a little something, and, if you did $20, we would send you a Randi Rhodes Show bumper sticker, okay? If you did $20, you could get, maybe a webcam cover or, there's like a whole bunch of stuff that we would send you as a thank you gift for your donation. But if we could get 1,000 new donors in the next 3 days, then we will be able to unlock another $10,000 from a frontline funder who always picks the challenge. See, when we have frontline funders, when we have people that put big money where my mouth is, and they put up $10,000 or $20,000 or sometimes $50,000, they pick the challenge. And so this challenge is to get 1,000 new donors in 3 days, and then they will put up $10,000 toward the total for the pledge drive. So if you would like to be part of that 1,000, please do so by calling us at 877-378-8669. Or you can go to freespeech.org/donate. It'll get you exactly where you want to go, but freespeech.org is good. And then if you want to text, all you got to do is put in FSTV, Free Speech TV, to the number 44321. You do 44321 and you put in FSTV, we'll send you a secure link. Now, you can do that one time. You can do it recurring, and you can cancel if you choose recurring at any time you like. It's just real easy. Nobody's going to argue with you. You just say, I want to cancel. Done. You're out. Okay? So it's that simple. So please, do help us get to, 1,000 donors in 3 days by donating right now. And if you call, you'll speak to somebody in Denver, Colorado, where Free Speech TV is headquartered. Now, I think at this point in our lives together, you understand the importance of independent media. I think at this point in our lives, you understand that the kind of swill that is being churned out each and every day by people who are lying to you about what should happen to somebody who is a traitor to our soul. Listen, Donald Trump has called our soldiers, just point blank, called them suckers, right? He said anybody that would serve in the military, well, they're a bunch of suckers. He's called them losers. And now he has literally shown you that he will put in harm's way people who actually risk their lives for the benefit of our safety and security, for the benefit of our country. And he is very busy showing people documents that would show the vulnerabilities that America has if you were a foreign entity and you desired to attack the United States of America. He was the guy that you wanted to see for that information, and he would show it to you? What kind of garbage is that when it comes to, who's the deep state now? It's so violent. It's so disgusting. And, everybody thinks, oh, well, there is a mountain of evidence. Yeah, the mountain is so high, you probably need a permit from Park Services to actually climb it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like a humongous amount that was in this indictment. It was a multimedia, fiesta bowl of fun. It had videos. It had transcripts. It had photographs. It had, phone calls, recordings. It had lawyers' documents. Oh, and by the way, let me answer this question for you right up front. So, this thing about Aileen Cannon, who is a rogue district court judge who was appointed by Donald Trump to the district bench in Florida after he lost the election. In the lame duck period that Donald Trump had, he decided he needed some friendly judges in Florida. And he picked Aileen Cannon to be a district court judge for the District of Miami federal court. Okay? Knowing that he might actually ever end up in front of her. Well, the first thing that happened with regard to this case and the documents case happened in front of her. She was randomly chosen to be the judge that heard the special master issue. Remember that? Remember Mr. Deary? And Mr. Deary was tasked by Aileen Cannon to go through all these documents and to decide whether or not these were personal documents or these were national security documents or these were classified documents. These were government documents that don't belong to him. And she said, yes, I want a special master. And everybody was telling, it's going to take a year. It's going to take more than a year. And she did it to delay. Well, it turns out that this case, just the whole case, the case proper, may all end up in front of her even after she was overturned by the appeals court. The very conservative 11th Circuit Court of Appeals overturned Aileen Cannon and said she did not have a grip or a grasp on either the law or the facts because she had no jurisdiction. She wasn't even entitled to weigh in on the matter, and yet she chose to do so. And everybody was, the whole legal community, regardless of, whether you were representing Donald Trump or you were somebody who would represent Donald Trump or you were somebody that would be on the other side, on the other side's table, right? It didn't matter. Everybody agreed. This was bizarre, her ruling. It was rogue. It was weird. She didn't have jurisdiction. So why was she making... and she was quickly overturned, strongly and quickly overturned by the appeals court. Well, it seems like at random... Yeah. She apparently, they spin the wheel. They spin the wheel of justice and, like a bingo game. If, your name, plunks out, like B29 or B16 or B4 and after, she actually might get this case. Now, we don't know for sure if she will have the decency to recuse herself because she's already been involved in this case. And she made the wrong decision in this case, or because she made the wrong decision in this case because she can't be impartial, or would she recuse herself because of the embarrassment that would follow her everywhere, her being the judge in this most important case for United States national security, for the future of the United States, for the future of, criminals being in the White House. Now, we've had criminals being in the White House before. We have. We had Richard Nixon. He was a criminal. And Gerald Ford pardoned him. Remember that? I don't know why everybody leaves that out. And I don't know if you remember his vice president or not, but Spiro Agnew. Anybody remember Spiro? Yeah, Spiro was charged with 40 counts of tax fraud and cheating, basically. And they made a deal with him. They said, listen, leave the vice presidency and we'll leave you alone. We'll leave you alone. That is a problem that America has. That is a distinct and unique problem that America has. That if you're high, and this is why when the Republicans argue, we have a two-tier justice system. We have a two-tier justice system. Whenever you charge Donald Trump with the crimes he has committed, with a mountain of evidence so large that you can hardly see the ground from the peak of that mountain of evidence, they yell, we have a two-tier justice system. I don't know if anybody ever, realized that, yes, he's on the good side of those two tiers. He's on the side where you get to surrender yourself. He's on the side where, you're arrested, but you're not photographed. He's on the side of justice where you're arrested, but you're not, booked into jail. Doesn't that strike the MAGA people as bizarre when they hear their people on their channels in their right-wing media say, we have a two-tier justice system? Doesn't it dawn on any of them that Donald Trump is on the preferred side of the two tiers? It's so disingenuous what they're arguing. It's so crazy. It makes no sense.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
One of the first things we found out, it's been assigned to this judge who had jurisdiction over the Trump case earlier.
Yeah, Aileen Cannon. We don't know if she's going to actually have the trial itself. We know she's going to have the early portion of this case.
What would prevent her from having the trial?
Well, look, they're going to determine down the road who the judge is going to be in the case. But for now, she's handling the first hearing in the case. And look, and I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing because at least the focus won't be on who the judge is, right? Because in a lot of these cases, you see Donald Trump saying, this judge is biased against me. There is no way he can argue this judge is biased against him. He appointed this judge. This judge had a very favorable ruling to him that was ultimately overruled by the appellate court. And these initial proceedings, I don't think are going to make or break the case either. It's going to be interesting to see what are the early motions that they make. We know already what some of the legal arguments that they're going to make are, but what are they going to try and keep out of evidence? What are they going to say shouldn't be admitted, et cetera? That's going to be interesting in the early days of the case.
Right, and that's not tomorrow. Tomorrow is, it's a simple hearing. I don't even know that Aileen Cannon is going to preside over tomorrow. I would think that's a magistrate judge. I would think that that's, just somebody that does procedural stuff for the court, that works with a federal judge, not the federal judge herself. But it will be interesting to see if she shows up tomorrow. Now, one of the things I learned today, because like you, I think a lot of us understand that there is this mountain of evidence, that there is an enormous amount. And, what's in the indictment is not the entirety of everything that will be presented at trial. That is not everything. That is just some of the things, okay? And the indictment doesn't even have to tell us as much as it did. The indictment did tell us a whole hell of a lot, but it doesn't tell you everything, right? So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, if Aileen Cannon is allowed to preside over the trial proper, let's call it, there's a lot of damage that she could do to Jack Smith and the state's case. A lot of damage. A lot. So she could do, she could say, oh, I'm not going to allow the phone calls, or the text messages, or whatever portion of evidence is, because you have to get it into evidence at trial in order for the jury to hear it. So let's say we're up to the portion of the trial where the text messages between Nauda and, a family member, right, that we know only is a woman, because he says, good day, ma'am, and some woman who's identified in the indictment as a family member, which means it's either Ivanka or Melania, because those are the only two family members that are women, okay, in the Trump crime family. She's saying, oh, well, there's no room on the plane. You can't put those boxes on the plane because, I'm going to load it up with luggage, right? So let's say the judge rules that she doesn't want that coming into evidence. It's too prejudicial, or a person who's not involved in the case is going to be named, or whatever, lunatic, fringy thing an Aileen Cannon might say to exclude evidence. She could do that. And there's a lot of stuff that she could do that would be appealable, but there's a lot of stuff that she could do that would not be appealable because it had to do with her discretion as a judge. So could she do damage to the case? Oh, hell yeah. She could do a lot of damage to the case. She could also, here's another little tidbit that I learned just by reading the newspaper today, which, nobody does. But there are things called, now I know this because I've been at trial. Not criminal, though. Yay. But civil, where there's a directed verdict, meaning at the end of the prosecution, at the end of Jack Smith's case, the defense will always stand up and ask for something called a directed verdict from the judge, not the jury, from the judge, saying the prosecution failed to prove their case. There's no reason for us to make a defense because they failed. They utterly failed, and the burden of proof is with them. Do you agree, Your Honor? And if you do, we're asking for a directed verdict from the bench. And a very prejudiced judge, or a judge who wants to throw the whole thing away, could actually take them up on that and say, yes, I will issue a directed verdict, and the verdict is not guilty. 99.9% of the time, a judge will not say that she or he wants to insert themselves into what is a jury matter. The trier of fact is the jury, not the judge. So she could do that, though. That is a complete avenue that a judge can actually take. She can go down that bad road. But one of the things I also learned today was that there might be some concern about the fact that Evan Corcoran, who was an attorney for Donald Trump, was the attorney-client privilege was pierced by a federal judge who heard evidence in that case and concluded that Evan Corcoran was likely helping Donald Trump in furtherance of a crime, and that they were concocting some ability to create a new crime out of the old crime. The old crime obviously was retention and dissemination of documents to people who had no business seeing them or no business knowing about them or viewing them or seeing these maps or the attack plans for Iran, which is what he shared with people who had no security clearance at all. One was a young person with his PAC, with his Make America Great Again PAC, or some PAC of his, Political Action Committee. And the other was a bunch of people in, his office in Bedminster. Anyway, if you're worried that she could say that Aileen Cannon, a very, in the tank for Donald Trump judge, could say that Donald Trump, that the attorney-client privilege was pierced in an by mistake. Okay, she doesn't agree with the court's decision, and so she's not going to allow Evan Corcoran's notes, contemporaneous notes, or Evan Corcoran's audio recordings, or Evan Corcoran's testimony, or anything like that in the trial. I don't believe she can do that. I learned today that that is called the law of the case, meaning anything that's been judged, anything that's been litigated, anything that's been looked at prior and had witness testimony and had evidence presented, and a decision was rendered about the appropriateness of that evidence or the appropriateness of piercing the attorney-client privilege in this case. Anything that's been litigated and decided is not anything that the judge can relitigate or decide. It's already the law of the case. It follows the case, that legal decision. So you can't get rid of Evan Corcoran's stuff, which is really, really damaging. That's really a lot of the case hinges on Evan Corcoran's information. A lot of the case doesn't, though. The text messages between Walter Nauda and some secretary, or Walter Nauda and, employee number 2. I hear employee number 2 is a secretary, or she would prefer to be called Trump's personal assistant, I'm sure. But there was, there are text messages between Molly and, this Waltine guy. His name is Waltine. Rhymes with Saltine. But he ain't going to sit on the Ritz, okay? He's not going to the Ritz. He's going to jail. But anyway, so honestly, there are things she can do to totally destroy. And, you have to think to yourself, my God, if she is so willing to be so in the tank for a guy who actually, caused the capturing, the killing, or the compromising of CIA informants. And back in October of 2021, when all this was going on, we got an article out of the New York Times. Julian Barnes and Adam Goldman wrote a very deep dive piece about how the counterintelligence officials at the CIA were warning station chiefs and station bases around the world about the troubling number of informants that were recruited from other countries to spy for the United States being captured or killed. And that the Americans that were recruiting these people were also in danger. It was a very unusual cable. It was a top secret cable. It had to do with the CIA's counterintelligence mission center. And they had looked at dozens and dozens of cases in the last few years involving foreign informants who had been killed, arrested, or compromised. And the cable was very brief, but it laid out a specific number of agents who were executed by rival intelligence agencies. And it was all going on, back in October of 2021. Now, if a judge is so in the tank for Donald Trump that she doesn't give a rat's ass that he did that, then you have to ask what's in it for her, right? Obviously, she'll be ostracized at cocktail parties by everyone except Clarence and Ginny Thomas, okay? And maybe, Sam and, his wife, Alito. But what's in it for her? Well, maybe she thinks that getting Donald Trump off the hook and turning him into the ultimate witch hunted, person will win him an election. And then, bam, she gets elevated from district court federal judge right up, not even through the appeals court, but to the Supreme Court, or maybe even on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the staging ground for the Supreme Court. I mean, It's the only motivation I could think of.
Mary had a little lamb. False. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The support from many Republican voters was unwavering as Donald Trump made a campaign sweep from Georgia to North Carolina.
They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
In our latest CBS News poll, 76% of likely GOP primary voters think the indictment was politically motivated. What did you make of the indictment of Trump when you heard it?
That the Democrats are crazy and they need to stop trying to bully Trump.
Trump supporters said they're unmoved and their opinions unchanged by the criminal case. Among his defenders, North Carolina's Republican Lieutenant Governor.
People are tired of politics permeating everything, and now it's permeating into our legal system. I think people are not going to tolerate that anymore.
The new CBS News poll shows only 38% of those likely Republican primary voters consider it a national security risk if Trump kept classified nuclear and military secrets, compared to 80% for the rest of the country. While 80% of Republicans said Trump should be able to serve as president even if convicted.
Oh, my God.
At a rodeo in Oklahoma, attended by his closest rival, Ron DeSantis, this Republican and military veteran took a different view.
I was in the military for 20 years. Anybody that blatantly disregards classified information, well, they should be held accountable. And if it was me that did it, my would already be in prison.
But that opinion was definitely in the minority of what we heard overall this weekend. These legal cases are just going to hang over the campaign, with the first debate set for August.
August 23rd, the first debate. Tonight at 8 o'clock, Chris Christie is having a town hall on the CNN. That ought to be, a doozy because, Christie obviously wants to be president, and he's the only Republican that, with their national security street cred being what it is, right? I mean, they love our troops and the United States, America first, security first, blah, blah, blah. You die to support. Only Chris Christie is willing to speak up and speak out about this ridiculous breach of national security and the ridiculous, careless, obscene, obstructive way that Donald Trump lied. Here's another little detail from the story. Okay, remember at the beginning of this story? At the beginning of the story, Donald Trump said he didn't have any documents, right? He didn't have any. Then he said, and if there are any documents at Magaloco, they were planted. They were planted by the FBI. They were planted. We have to defund the FBI. So now you know why they want to defund law and order in this country, because they are subject to the bar of justice too. And they are lawbreakers, okay? So he said, I don't have anything. He said, if I do have anything, it's because it was planted. Then he said, yeah, I have stuff. It's mine. It's mine. I get to keep it. And then we have him on tape saying, I shouldn't have this. This creates a problem because I'm not president anymore. So I can't declassify this. So stand back. But I'm going to show you. This is a map. This is a map of a active war that's going on. And, he was showing people active war zones where American troops were stationed, our nuclear array. I just honestly. And so that Air Force vet in Oklahoma is the only person they could find who feels that way. He was the only person they could find that said, hey, listen, I served. And if you tell me that this guy had super top secret compartmentalized information in his freaking toilet in a public place that does weddings. Oh my God.
To me, what do you think of the indictment is not the right question to be asking these maggots. What I want to ask them is, if proven, what do you think of Donald Trump then? If proven he's a traitor, if proven he compromised the lives of agents in the field, what do you think then? I want to hear them say, I don't care.
You know what I want them to do? I want them to sing the song, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Wouldn't that?
They will do that, though.
They won't do that. They won't do that. They won't do that. They actually won't do that. And you know they won't do that. You know why I know they won't do that? Because they didn't do that, and they actually did do that when McCain and his reputation were sullied by Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was still running in 2016, and he went out there and he said he likes people that weren't captured, that McCain is no hero because he likes people that weren't captured, and everybody said, oh, yeah, hey, that's kind of true. Oh, hey, yeah, McCain would have, waved his arms in the air and said, stop, except, he couldn't move his arms because he was tortured, right? But, it's unbelievable. They actually allowed that. And then when Donald Trump said that people that serve in the military are suckers and losers because they serve in the military after he was exposed as being somebody who wouldn't serve in the military and erroneously claimed he had bone spurs or some such crap because that's what rich kids did back in the day. Some of them had to flee and go to Canada, and others of them had bone spurs. They had friendly family doctors that would lie for them, right? And so when that happened, he said, oh, well, I did what I had to do. People that actually go to war, they're suckers. They're suckers. And then they lovingly gloss over the fact that Donald Trump, while he stands on a stage now and bitches about how Biden got us out of Afghanistan but left behind military equipment, they always neglect, and he always forgets to point out that he is the one who surrendered the United States to the Taliban in something called the Doha Agreement. I don't know what he got for that, but he definitely got something. Because he's too transactional, okay? There is no way that Donald Trump ever acts in the best interest of the working man, of the Joe Lunch Bucket guy. He hates you, okay? He despises you. He thinks that you are, he actually said at the beginning of 2016, when he first got out on the road, I'll never forget it. When he first got out there and he saw who you were, and he saw what you looked like, and he saw that you were mostly rural, angry, white men, he said, these are my people. He was so disappointed because he wasn't getting the acceptance from the New York crowd. He wasn't getting the acceptance from the elite Republican crowd, like from the Clarence Thomas crowd, from the Ginny Thomas crowd. He wasn't getting, John Roberts' undivided love and attention, right? He was being embraced by bikers for Trump. He was being embraced by rural guys. He was being embraced by people who were buying into this whole notion that they were being replaced in this country by immigrants. Replaced. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. But that's who his crowd was. And he didn't like it. And he doesn't like you. But you can't tell people that because they think he's got some magical plan up his sleeve that's somehow going to benefit them somewhere along the last, 7 years? It was going to happen, and it did, but we need to give him 4 more. We need to give him, 12 years. Honestly, this is so crazy. This is so nuts. But here he is, just doing what he does, okay? You know what his defense is? Do you know what he called Bill Barr? Listen, Bill Barr is a guy who is also transactional, okay? But he's smarter than Donald Trump. But he's very transactional. He had a mission too, Bill Barr's mission, he's an Opus Dei Catholic. He's one of those. He's like the Women of Praise types, okay? The Handmaiden, the Amy Coney Barrett type of Catholic. And his mission was to pack the Supreme Court for Leonard Leo. His mission was to get some of the most devout right-wing Catholics who would abolish all kinds of freedoms that women enjoy, that lesbians and gay people have come to take almost for granted in this country, the right to marry, the right to fall in love, the right to have children, all of it. He would be able to take away all these freedoms, okay? That was his mission, and he was successful. And now that that mission is over, Donald Trump is calling Bill Barr, and Bill Barr almost deserves it, a gutless pig. That's what Donald Trump has as his defense. Name calling.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
He's not a victim here. He was totally wrong that he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has. They have to be in the custody of the archivist. He had no right to maintain them and retain them. And he kept them in a way at Mar-a-Lago that anyone who really cares about national security, their stomach would churn at it.
So you see this as different and separate from what he would term the Russian hoax, what we saw from the Durham report. You see these as two totally separate tracks.
Yes, because in the Russian, there was nothing. There was no problem or issue underlying the Russiagate claim. It was an effort to knock him out with a false claim. Here, I think the government acted responsibly. They gave him every opportunity to return those documents. They acted with restraint. They were very deferential to him, and they were very patient. They talked to him for almost a year to try to get those documents, and he jerked them around. They finally went to a subpoena, and what did he do? According to the government, he lied and obstructed that subpoena. And then they did a search, and they found a lot more documents. And they're not even, I don't think they're even sure now whether they have everything. So they acted in a very patient way, and what they were met with was, according to the government and the indictment, very egregious obstruction.
Now, isn't that fascinating that Bill Barr, who knows that Donald Trump obstructed justice in the Mueller investigation 10 different times, but was the Attorney General of the United States and decided that that particular perch gave him the right to act in a political way and to represent not the people of the United States, which is what the Attorney General of the United States is supposed to do. He's supposed to represent all of us. He instead decided to use the Attorney General's perch as an opportunity to be Donald Trump's defense attorney in the Mueller investigation, which clearly showed that Donald Trump's MO is to obstruct any investigation into Donald Trump. Now, Bill Barr knows this, okay? And that's what makes it so, vomit-inducing, gut-wrenching. I don't know what you want to say, but it's shockingly sick and sad that that is what we have to tolerate as Attorney General of the United States of America when you have a Republican president, okay? It's just so sad, and it's so sick that they always think, and Jeff Sessions did too, that they were Donald Trump's personal attorney. And they're not. Don McGahn, he thought he was Donald Trump's personal attorney. He was the White House counsel. His job was to protect the office of the White House, not the person occupying it. And so many Americans have such a difficult time separating those two things because they won't think for themselves. But anyway, Donald Trump is now, and so this is why I mentioned to you that Aileen Cannon, if she is in charge of the early phase of the trial, it gives a chance for Donald Trump to have one less, a person to bully, one less person to call a gutless pig, which is what he called, Bill Barr there. He actually, he posted, I don't know what you call what he does on that stupid little platform that he owns, but he actually posted, quote, "Turn off Fox News when that gutless pig is on," and put it in quotes. Now, Bill Barr is 10 times smarter than Donald Trump because Bill Barr got what Bill Barr came for. Okay, Bill Barr wrote some opinion piece that he was, guaranteed would get before Donald Trump's eyeballs, saying how Donald Trump was being railroaded in the Mueller, and he could get him out of it, and blah, blah, blah. And Donald Trump actually fell for that bait, took that bait, hook, line, and sinker, and hired him, replaced Jeff Sessions, who he didn't think was doing enough to protect him, not the United States, but to protect him, and put Bill Barr in there knowing Bill Barr would protect him. And Bill Barr did protect him. He did PR for him when the Mueller report first came out. Then he redacted almost all of the Mueller report so we couldn't even read the freaking thing for months. For months. And now he's telling it, listen, I know this guy. Pretty much this is his MO. This is what he does. He obstructs justice, blah, blah, blah. And people are celebrating the fact that Aileen Cannon, who is a sycophant, okay, who doesn't know the lyrics to I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That, okay, is willing to risk it all, hoping that Donald Trump wins a second term and something good happens for herself. How sick and sad. That is a swamp, okay? You understand. Bill Barr was part of a swamp. Aileen Cannon making this ruling that Donald Trump needed a special master to delay the whole thing. That is a deep state operative that's been plucked and put in place specifically for the reason of protecting Donald Trump's criming. That's a deep state. Okay? And Bill Barr knows that. And the idea that I have to listen to him now tell me how, oh, he was totally wrong. And, you know, this thing, he's toast. I mean, it's going to put him in jail. One of the, you know how many years Donald Trump is literally facing with all these counts? 420. No, I'm not kidding. 420. If the full sentence, if the full sentence guidelines, the top of the sentencing guidelines were adjudicated, okay, as being punishment, he would be in jail for 420 years. Now, that never happens, as you know. But we're talking about obstruction like 20 years, okay? The rest of his life. That is the truth. And the people who are trying to defend him, not Bill Barr, because Bill Barr, his mission is accomplished. His mission is concluded. His mission is done. He got exactly what he came for out of Donald Trump. And what he came for was the Supreme Court. He is, after all, the Attorney General. Okay, he is a highfalutin lawyer with a very specific agenda. And that's what Bill Barr came to get, and he got it. He got it from Donald Trump. And now Donald Trump is trying to take credit for this very unpopular idea of taking away the right to a woman to make her own reproductive decisions, a right to, actually early take a pill. Like 5 minutes after you get a positive on the pregnancy test, to take a pill. No, can't do that. Can't have that. We need more white babies is what it is. You know, it's very, and also God told me. God did not tell you that. Abortion is in the Bible in a myriad of ways. They just got so used to telling the lie that it became part of who they were. And his entire mission was to pack the Supreme Court with sycophants who believe that somewhere in the Bible, women are to be treated as, second-class citizens. And that the Bible is somehow the document that America governs under. Like, I don't know, Sharia law? But the American version? No. We don't have a institutionalized religious body in the United States. We don't have a state church. There's a reason for that. Okay. But they see like all this opportunity in taking tax dollars and putting them into Catholic schools. I mean, that's what happened in Oklahoma. I keep on referring to that. I hope that everybody's very hip to what. Do you know the name of the Catholic school that is going to be the first one to get tax dollars? It's Saint Isidore, the patron saint of the internet.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, everybody, this is it. It is a pledge drive for the next couple of weeks. And so we want to thank you in advance for donating to Free Speech TV because, as you know, independent media is hard to come by. And it takes support from people like you because we don't take any political money. We don't take any corporate money. And so the only people that support us are viewers like you. And today, for the next 3 days, what we're going to try and do is get 1,000 new donors to join us here at Free Speech TV as donors by calling 877-378-8669 or by going online to freespeech.org or to text FSTV to 44321, 44321, and we'll send you a secure link. And if we can get 1,000 new donors to join us in support of the people in Denver, Colorado, who work really hard to disseminate these shows to all the places that you watch them, whether you're watching them on DirecTV Channel 348 or Dish Network 9415 or you're watching it on Roku or Sling or any of the places that you watch it, there are people that have to get those shows there. And that's what they do in Denver. And that's what pledge drives are for, to support that particular effort. And so if we can get 1,000 new donors today, tomorrow, and the next day, then we will have a frontline funder give us $10,000 extra dollars that will go toward the total at the end of our pledge drive. And that would be just super, super cool. So please do feel free to donate right now, with any of those three methods. And of course, we have a whole bunch of thank you gifts that we would love to send you. And some of the things are just donations. We would like to give a $100 donation to Black trans activists, groups. And we will do that. If you donate $100, then we will make a donation to groups like that you would support. $75 will get you a Randi Rhodes mug. There are other things that, you could actually enjoy having as a little thank you for your efforts. So we thank you in advance. All right, Sherry in Washington.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
There's a reference about the conversation on one side of the phone saying, yes, Miss Trump, right? And
ma'am, no, it's
either,
not.
Or ma'am, yes, ma'am, that was it. It could be Laura Trump, right?
I don't know. It's a family member. I mean, I guess Laura's a family member, sort of, kind of. I don't know. Yeah.
Eric's wife, so.
But what about that? I mean, who cares? Who cares who it was? You have a family member that knows that he's got these documents, okay, and that there are maps and war plans and nuclear facilities and all of this. And he's keeping them in bathrooms and on stages in ballrooms and in storage rooms that are not secured. They're falling all over the floor. They're marked 5 eyes only. And she's calling up going, there's no room on the plane today. I have luggage. Really?
I just think Laura is the stupider one of the three.
And
so
they're for the every. But the point is, they're supposed to be for the everyman. They're supposed to, right? And she's worried there won't be room enough in the belly of her private aircraft for her luggage.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Matt in South Carolina.
Yeah. Hey, Randy.
Hi.
I was just wanting to know. I don't really keep up much, but I was just wanting to know what's been in the news lately. What do you think about the DOJ waiting to right before the elections? Because something broke with Trump. I think, they raided his house before the midterms. Now they're waiting, everything's busting out before the presidential. I mean, what do you think about the DOJ playing politics with what I consider naked fascism in America?
So when would you like them to have charged him? Because
I don't know.
Right. I mean, it would always be an election. I mean, we're not in a we're not really in a primary now. He's not the nominee. So wouldn't it be worse if they waited till right before the election when he was the nominee? Or wouldn't it be better to do it now? Like what? How many months away are we from an election? Like 14? I mean, when are we not?
Yeah.
When are we not in an election? 14 months is too close for you.
Well, I think Merrick Garland should have jumped on it a lot sooner. I mean, they had enough to prosecute him.
Wait a second. Merrick Garland doesn't make the call. Don't you know that?
Okay. Well, what about, do you think the Republicans are fascist? The Republican Party?
I think there's something wrong with their ideology. I don't know exactly what it is, but it seems very self-serving. It seems very donor-oriented. It seems like they're only interested in people who give money to them, and everyone else can go to hell, right? I mean, they don't want to do, little things for the American people, like expand Medicaid. They fight that. They will shut down the government. They will default the United States if they think somebody is going to get Medicaid, or if they think that somebody's going to get food stamps, even though they're working, but they're just not able to make enough money to feed their family, and they need $30 a week. I mean, these are the fights they pick, so I don't know what you would call that.
Well, I think when you want to privatize government and let corporations and billionaires, oligarchs, run the country, I think that's fascism. I mean, isn't that a definition? There's different types of fascism.
That is the Republican agenda, to take tax dollars out of public schools. Public schools have to be attacked because there's 100 children in this country that might be transgendered playing on elementary school or middle school sports teams. Oh, my God. So I mean, so they want to defund public schools and give the money to Catholic Church schools that are the Catholic Church is richer than any entity I could even possibly imagine. Okay. And they want to take the public school money and transfer it to private religious schools. Privatization is their deal. It's not the Democrats' deal at all. So you're making an argument that the Republicans are fascist. Is that what you're doing?
I think they're fascist. I think there's different types of fascism. There's economic fascism, which would be to privatize government, let billionaires and corporations run it. There's religious fascism, like what you're talking about. Still, there's social fascism.
Well, they tick all
there's different types of fascism, I think the sum total of what they are today, what the Republicans are today, they are fascist. And in my opinion, Biden, this administration, has not done near enough to take out what I think is naked fascism in this country.
Well, it's not.
And he ran. He said he threw his hat. He said he threw his hat in the ring because of what you were talking about, or I think you mentioned earlier. Jews will not replace us. I mean, they were walking down the street with their tiki torches, looking like Nazis to me, and that's why he said he ran. He just couldn't take that anymore. So But what has he done? What has he done to put down? Or I don't know. Do you agree?
We watched 1,000 people be prosecuted. We watched Stuart Rhodes and Enrique Tarrio and his whole crowd go to jail for seditious conspiracy. You watched, prosecutions of these people for doing what they did. You watched it. I don't know what else you want to see, but it's interesting because it looks like you called to say Biden is a fascist. And in talking,
no, not at all. I'm not saying that Joe Biden's a fascist. I'm saying that there was that one event in Charlottesville where they were doing some kind of fascist something, that when there were tiki torches saying Jews will not replace us. That's what he said was too much. And, of course, James Clyburn down here backed him, and that brought the black vote in because they were on the fence with Bernie. And who knows? But I'm saying that they have been.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The guy with no arms and legs that was in front of the front door, Matt. Yeah, that guy, Matt, you got me all confused. I really couldn't follow your lot.
It could have been on me. Our convo before I put him on, I might have been confused. He may have misheard me. A little bit of miscommunication led to.
No, but it doesn't really
confusion.
matter because he started the conversation by saying, "Didn't I think that it was too close to an election to actually bring charges against Donald Trump? That we were in the middle of an election? Well, the election isn't for 17 months, and." I don't know if you remember this, Matt, or not, but when James Comey reopened a closed Hillary Clinton email investigation, it was 11 days before the election, and it cost her the freaking election. So I'm not sure who the fascist is supposed to be in your world. I really, you confused the hell out of me. I will tell you this. They had videos to go through. They had transcripts to go through. They had to litigate whether or not Evan Corcoran, who was helping Donald Trump commit crimes as his attorney, should have the attorney-client privilege pierced. A whole large chunk of evidence came from his notes, came from his audio taping of Donald Trump. And now why would a defense attorney audio tape his client unless he thinks his client down the road might sell him out, might accuse the attorney of doing what the client did criminally, right? So he's recording his client and everything else. So there was a lot of litigation that had to go on. There was a lot of things that had to be decided ahead of filing the indictment. So no, I don't think, and also please remember this. The National Archives was so patient and so restrained. They waited an entire year for Donald Trump to turn over documents back to them that he should not have. Okay? A year they gave him because they didn't want to indict him. Nobody wanted to indict Donald Trump in the DOJ. Nobody in the Biden administration wants this headache either. Nobody wants to set precedent and be the first person to have a ex-president indicted twice in less than 2 months for crimes that he continually commits. Believe me, that is not the goal of the Biden administration. The goal of the Biden administration is to beat back the craziness. That's why he said the soul of the nation. We're in an inflection point, and we are. And the inflection point is like, okay, World War II. Yeah, let's go back. Germany got Adolf. We got FDR. That was an inflection point. You get the wrong guy at the wrong time, and your country literally gets dissolved into a peak of Nazism, okay? And you end up killing 12 million people, which is what happens. It's kind of luck of the draw, because Germany was a democracy too. And Adolf was elected, you know. So, and he also went to jail. Just a little tidbit for you. Yeah, he also went to jail. So, listen, nobody wanted this. Maybe I did. Truthfully, I did. But Biden doesn't want this. Nobody, I mean, Garland doesn't want this. Garland isn't that guy. Okay, he's not Bill Barr. Bill Barr was that guy. That's why he appointed Durham. That was a completely political attorney general. But just so you know, the attorney general of the United States, nor the president, decides or makes the call about indicting. It just, when there's a special counsel, the only thing that the attorney general can do is say, oh my God, this is so egregious, meaning you're so off the beaten path. You have no evidence to back up these charges. There are no videos. There are no tapes. There are no text messages. There are no photographs of documents with clear markings on them being stored in a toilet. There are no photos of, Five Eyes only documents being spilled on the floor in a freaking storage unit at a resort where weddings and Chinese spies go to have their brunch, okay? There's no testimony from lawyers that obviously show that they're trying to, further the crime of obstruction. There are no notes. So you have nothing. You have nothing. That's the only way that the attorney general can insert themselves and say, no, you're not filing the indictment. But the attorney general doesn't make the call to indict anybody when there's a special counsel scenario. That's not how it works. In fact, here's Bill Barr telling it to you.
Well, under the regulation, the call can be made just by the special counsel, but I'm sure they had worked out an agreement whereby he would keep the attorney general in the loop, and if the attorney general had strong feelings, he'd voice them. But I think the attorney general said pretty early on he would be guided by the recommendation of the counsel. Now, we can't forget here that this entire thing came about because of reckless conduct of the president. If he had just turned over the documents, which I think every other person in the country would have done, they're the government's documents. They're official records. They're not his personal records. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about our capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents.
No, they're government documents, and he doesn't have a right to them. And that's the thing. That was the deal. That's the way it works. And that's why the National Archives was asking for these documents back. They didn't belong to him. They would never belong to him. They didn't belong to him when he was the president either. And he's not charged under the Presidential Records Act for personal documents. He's charged under the Espionage Act, and not because they're charging him with being a spy, but because in the Espionage Act, there are various crimes. And one of the crimes is keeping documents that belong to the government or showing classified documents. See, the documents don't have to be classified. They just have to be government property. They just have to be defense documents or CIA documents, whatever it is. They don't have to be classified documents to fall under the Espionage Act. However, when they do actually have classification markings on them, and you show them to people who aren't authorized to see them, that's also chargeable under the Espionage Act. You don't have to have transmitted them. You don't have to have, done anything except lie that you had them and obstruct, an effort to get them back. And that's what he did. And that's why everybody's telling you, that anything that happens now is all because Donald Trump made it happen, because Donald Trump loves to be the victim, because when he's the victim, you get these primary voters that vote for him. And that's his play. And that's all it is a play. But no one here is being a fascist, except for, I mean, even Donald Trump's not being a fascist. He's being a selfish little whiny bitch, because that's how he thinks he wins the primary. And the rest of them, now their patriotism really needs to be challenged right along with his, because they stay so quiet about what they know to be true. And that is that he had very significant, important, sensitive pieces of defense information. And because he's such a transactional beast, we don't know why he had them or what he wanted with them. Like I said, could be anything at all. We know that something really weird happened with the Saudis. Something really weird happened with the Live golf tournament, right? And it's all because the PGA would not book Donald Trump's golf clubs. They wouldn't play at Doral. They wouldn't book the PGA Tour at Bedminster in Jersey. They wouldn't do it in Scotland either. Why? Because of January 6th, okay? And they didn't need the headache. They didn't need the contretemps. They didn't need the controversy of booking the PGA Tour in a club owned by a man who would try to overthrow his own government. They just didn't. So, I mean, something happened with the Saudis buying the PGA now, where all of a sudden he's going to get the Live golf tournaments, which he's already gotten, coming through his, this is so disgusting. This is why he looked the other way when they literally bonesawed and beheaded Jamal Khashoggi. That's why. And I'm telling you right now, Jared had a list of people in the Saudi royal family that did not want to see, bin Salman elevate himself to the throne. And I'm sure Jared, he made this secret little trip in the middle of the night with no secret service, no nothing, right? And goes to Saudi Arabia. And then, right after that, he gives him a piece of paper with names on. Right after that, this not in the line of succession kid in freaking Saudi Arabia takes family members hostage and kills one of them at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And Jared walks away with $2 billion at the conclusion of the Trump presidency. Oh, please. This is a very deeply criminal family. Don't you find it fascinating that Jared and Ivanka, what they'll share besides for children and a marriage and a house in Miami? They will share the story of fathers doing hard prison time. Now, why would that be? Well, let's see. Behind every great fortune, there seems to be a great crime. It's my thesis, and I'm sticking with it. But anyway, he's just venting. He's furious. Now, tomorrow, let's just fingers crossed, because he'll be arraigned at 3 o'clock, right as this show is coming on the air, Eastern. Let's just fingers crossed, no violence. No violence. In New York, nobody even showed up. Let's hope that's the situation.